Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Today I'm going to show you how to install a vent boost gauge on your E90 BMW. Let's get this unboxed. Get the little control box, analog box, sticker, the module, display. You have a couple tap connectors, 4 zip ties, a vacuum line that's nylon, terminates to rubber. Looks like the vacuum sensor itself goes on here. This will plug into this control box. And you have an RJ45 from the looks of it. That's going to go between your display and this. And this is just power. This would be dimmer, so when your lights are on. A couple 0 to 5 volt analog signals if you just wanted to feed in another gauge. So this particular kit retails for $259. It's mostly going to be a boost gauge for me. So this kit is made by a company called P3. I'm going to put a link in the description if you guys are interested in purchasing this. There's also another version that works with OBD to give you some more information, so I'll link that as well. Let's go to the car now and get the vent removed so we can start installing this gauge. All right, using a plastic trim tool, get underneath it. Once you get it started, you should be able to pull it forward. And then we'll take it over to the table. Starting from this side, take a little pick tool or a small flathead pocket screwdriver, get these started. Like so, and then it'll rotate out of there. Next up, we're going to need to remove this piece here. Alright, that's that piece removed. We can set that aside. I guess you could say my car is old enough that the foam insulator that normally surrounds this is kind of just disintegrated with time, so we got to pop this middle section out. This whole piece is going to be set aside. You have a couple ways to go about this. You should aim this toward yourself because after you've installed the new piece, you won't be able to maneuver this. You can put a little bit of hot glue to hold it in your ideal position, or once you get back in the car, you can just kind of use a screwdriver to align that perfectly and then set it there for good. You don't have to really think about it after that. Now it's recommended to remove this piece. I'm going to see if I can do that without damaging it. Let's see. So I'm just going to set this aside. I saw instructions where they got some side cutters to cut it from the manufacturer, but I don't see why you do that if you can just pop it out. So now I'll bring this back into position. We're good to go there. The way I'm going to do things is to just try to rely on it staying in the right position. You may find that after the fact, it kind of just rotates out of position and it's no good for you anymore. You know, I don't really rely heavily on this vent. What I'm going to do is just put it in like this, and then if necessary, I'll put a little bit of glue to hold it. But for now, this should be fully reversible. Passing the cable through. Make sure that this door is open. I'm passing the cable through. Make sure that you go on the bottom side of the door. I'll demonstrate. That's the door that would close if you wanted it to. This will snap into the little pegs on the side, and this is metal, by the way. So be careful not to bend it. Good to go there. Just so that you're not pulling unnecessarily, just feed a little bit back in. And then just until you're done installing, close this door, it'll hold things for you. And you're gonna fold this over. I'm gonna put a little bit of electrical tape here just to hold it. This is just temporary to get it in the car. Now I'll try to snap this bezel back on. Best to start from the bottom. You can see these little tabs that you have to engage. That's engaged. Snap this back. Verify that the door will open and close. Now in terms of those vents on the inside, you kind of just align these where you want them to be, and they should hold. I got them aligned where I'd want them. I'm not too concerned. And bring your vent, engage the one side. I think it's pretty safe to say that unless you glue these inner pieces, it probably won't stay exactly where you want it. But I'd kind of like the idea of this being fully reversible. So far it is, so I'm going to leave it be. But keep that in mind, you may want to put a tiny dab of hot glue down there just to hold things in your ideal position. But that's it for the vent. We'll go back to the car. Back at the car now, I'm going to pop this trim piece off. Feeding this cable through here and over here. Vent is reinstalled. So we're going to be getting our power from the OBD connector. Mine is actually busted, the bracket that holds it, so I could have easily just gone to this. For the sake of managing where that thing is going to live and doing a cleaner job, I'm going to remove this panel anyway, and you guys would have to do that normally. So to do so, there's a Phillips screw holding the cable release handle. Got to remove this. There'll be a plug going to your trunk release. Disconnect that. Okay, so normally you'd be unscrewing these two screws here to remove the bracket and get access to OBD connector to tap into it and whatnot. The reason I haven't fixed this is I have a wireless MHD adapter and it allows for me to shove everything back into place. It makes my life a little easier actually, so I'm just gonna leave things be. But ultimately I'm bringing this gauge connector into this area because it's gonna live back in here after. Now that that's tucked in the right position, I'm gonna bring this piece back. So bringing over the harness and the module, plugging that in. You got the RJ45 connector that goes into this module. Plugging that in. Here we have where the boost line will run. So I need to be able to get the boost line through the firewall from the engine bay to meet in this area. And that's basically all I'm gonna have. I'm gonna have the two connections here for power, and then we're gonna run the boost line from the engine bay to this through the firewall. These are tap connectors for a non-critical application like this. I'm okay with using them. BMW even includes them in their retrofit kits. I know a lot of you guys frown upon these, but just keep that in mind. You can solder and strip and all that. These are a little less permanent in my opinion. So we're gonna tap the OBD connector. The instructions say here, if you can make that out, pin 15 is power, pin 4 is ground. So looking at it here, that's our 12-volt power. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4 up here. Brown on the OBD is ground as it is on all these cars. So feel free to cringe at the use of tap connectors. All right, and when you're done with this, you just snap this cover on top. Next up, positive. You may want to mount this a little bit further back so that you'll be able to put it back in on the bracket. Just keep that in mind. You may want to go further up the cable, but since mine's busted and I have the MHD wireless adapter, I'm not as concerned. Okay, so next option I want to leverage is to take this green dimmer wire and tap it onto the red gray wire on the trunk release, because when you turn on your headlights, when the headlights come on, the trunk button will light up orange and then this will know it's time to dim. So I'm going to tap into that as well. So I'm out of tap connectors. I'm just going to solder this. Green goes to gray red on the trunk power wire. So that's the wiring taken care of. I want to put this module up and out of the way. I'm plugging in this module to figure out where we're going to mount it. I'm going to remove this cover here. There's 3 T20s that need to come out of the way. Using one of the included zip ties, I'm going to try to secure it to this. That way you can just live up in the dash like that. Okay, before anything, next up I got to bring the vacuum line through this firewall to connect it to here. So I have to find a way to pass that through. So I have a pick and I have electrical tape wrapped around the vacuum line. It's going to go through the firewall. On the other side, we'll pull it through the engine bay. I already have a couple holes poked there. I'll show you once I get under the hood. This grill snaps in here and I pulled that piece out there. And if you look, you can see my pick tool and the vacuum line that pop through, so I'm going to feed that out. So I just moved this line and a piece of rubber that comes from the factory with this kit fell off. Don't really like that. It should have been on there much more secured, or at least glued. I'm going to use the factory style line, which is a much better fit, and we'll cut that. So they expect that you're going to supply your own vacuum solution. They recommend that if you have your factory diverter valves or blow-off valve, that you cut the line and put a T adapter and then feed from there. In my case, I already have a blow-off valve adapter, which is feeding these 2 diverter valves. And my factory port on my manifold is plugged off. I can just bring this over to that to get my vacuum reference. So I'm going to take the plug off my vacuum port. We'll bring this line over. So I have my line coming up behind those lines, over the brake booster and in through the firewall. So I'm going to get ready to tidy all this up, but this is the hose that they include with it. Check this out. So that's not adequate in my opinion. It's barely going to work. So here's a piece of OEM line. It's really tight. So that's going to go, one side is going to go on this adapter. Tuck this up in the dash. Rather than deal with a bunch of excess line, I'm just going to cut this. Starting the car. So this model for about $259 will display boost and vacuum by default. If you press the right button, it'll switch to battery, indicate your battery charging voltage. Press it again, it'll switch back to boost. Pressing this will recall your peak boost in the last little bit. Now to demonstrate it going into boost, We're gonna do anti-lag. Now if you press that, it's gonna display that 0.7 was the highest boost on your last pull. If you press and hold the right button, it'll activate dimming at night, if that's bothering you. From what I can tell, I'm not getting dimming on the wire that I tapped into for some reason. So that's pretty much it for this gauge. It's not very often you're probably going to check your battery voltage through here, but hey, you can. You're pretty much going to default it to boost. And on your last pull, what was the peak boost? And it's pretty much in line of sight. If you're doing a pull, it's pretty easy to look right over there. And you can't really tell that it's out of place with these metal bars. I'm testing out the configuration menu. Okay, that did it. I had to change the setting in the configuration menu. So that did it. It's working now. Easy fix. It's gonna go bright in a second. So it was just under the main configuration menu. To get there, you press and hold these two buttons. When it says D, you left tap to change it to the setting that will allow for it to dim. And that'll be in the install PDF that will be linked in the description. Alright guys, that'll conclude this video showing you how to install a P3 boost gauge on your E90 BMW. It's been out for a while, but I just never realized that you could do it yourself for under $260. So I think it's a welcome addition to the car. If this is the first video you're catching on mine, please consider subscribing. I do upload regularly. Thanks for watching.